Good morning, and welcome to the Mekko Graphics webinar. This is David Goldstein, and I'll be talking to you for the next half hour and teaching you how to make a market map. I'm going to keep this discussion relatively interactive. We've got the chat feature in our GoToMeeting, and feel free to ask any questions in the chat feature. One of my colleagues will be monitoring and responding to the chats as we go along. And if there are some questions that that we think have some broad interest, we will deal with them at the end of the seminar, the end of the webinar. Give you a quick look at our agenda. Going to start out generally talking about what a market map is and when you might use one. Dive a little into the data, where you might find the data you'd need to build a market map, and then jump into Mekko Graphics and show you how to build a market map using the Mekko Graphics software and how to tweak it, how to make it a chart that stands out, a chart that the consultants might call $1 million chart. So we'll walk you through that. We'll do that all in about half an hour, and hopefully you'll walk out with a better understanding of market maps and when you would use it and what you would do with it. So what's a market map? I mean, basically, a market map is a two-dimensional chart. It's not a standard chart that you see in Excel or PowerPoint, but it can be very valuable in showing how a market breaks down. Typically, and it's a two-dimensional chart, and typically one of those dimensions is the competitor. And you can see in two of the charts here, we have the competitor as the dimension basically in the chart, and you would look at a competitor, the competitors by region or by market segment. That is your typical market map. And the market map usually the values in the segments are typically some measure of sales or revenue. It could be in dollars. It could be in units. There are some times, like in this third chart, where the two dimensions are slightly different. Here we've got the IT spending market broken down into categories and subcategories. So my unit is not a competitor here. It is actually a subcategory, and I'm looking at the size of the IT spend into broad categories, software, outsourcing, etc., and within those broad categories, subcategories. So I can see that applications are the biggest software category. So 3 examples, 3 different market maps. The market maps all use the Mekko chart as the driver of basically as the chart type in which you would draw the market map. From my perspective, market map and Mekko chart are not used interchangeably. I use Mekko charts for things other than market maps, but some people use those as synonyms. Some people basically say a market map is a Mekko chart. From my perspective, you use a Mekko chart to draw a market map. We're going to be focusing on market maps, and maybe in another webinar we'll show you some other uses of the Mekko chart. So why would you build a market map? I mean, there are a bunch of reasons. It really gives you an interesting perspective on the market and how it's split up. And you can see the relative sizes of the different market segments in that software chart from the previous slide. You can see which segments are biggest and smallest within each, which subsegments within each segment. So you've got an overall look at the market and how it's split up. If your market map is down at the level of a competitor, you can identify maybe some opportunities for consolidation. Are there markets where there are a lot of competitors and a lot of smaller competitors? If so, maybe there's an opportunity to consolidate. You can identify white space. You can find a market segment in which you are not competing or in which you are a relatively weak competitor and decide that you want to invest in that and grow it. And conversely, you can determine segments that you might want to exit, segments that are where there's a dominant competitor and you have a relatively small share. All of those are great uses of a market map. If you've never used it and you create one, they're a great way to present to your senior management team or to your colleagues the overall vision of the market and drive home whatever strategic decisions you want to make based on the market map. Couple of things before you get started in building a market map. Just two caveats. In consulting speak, the categories and subcategories in your market map should be MISI. They should be mutually exclusive and completely exhaustive. Basically what that means is you've got to have all of your competitors in the market map, and you've got to have all of the relevant market segments or all of the relevant geographies, and you don't want to have any overlaps among the competitors or among the segments. Each segment should be separate from the others. If you've got a lot of small segments, you might want to group them into an other segment. If you've got a lot of small segments, I mean, the market map doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to get all of the data exactly correct, but you want to try to get as close as possible. Estimates are fine, but leaving stuff out, purposefully leaving stuff out, will definitely skew the map. You're better off including stuff in it, including an estimate for a small competitor or for all your small competitors, than leaving them out totally. The other caveat before you get started is that market maps are over a single time period. Typically, it's the sales for a given quarter or sales for a given year. That's your data. They are not a good chart for tracking trends over time. If you are going to be making decisions about entering or exiting a market segment based on a market map, you probably want to have some other charts in your presentation, and some of those charts should be tracking your performance or the segment's performance over time, maybe in a simple bar chart, maybe with a CAGR column to show growth rates. So think of the market map as a good indicator of the current state of the market, but you also want to include some other measures in your some other charts in your presentation to look at market segments over time. Market map, putting two market maps next to each other for two different time periods is doable, but it's usually not a great way of showing change. It's usually difficult for your audience to see the differences in two market maps if you're presenting them next to each other or presenting them on two different slides. So I tend to stick with one, and I tend to supplement it with stacked bar charts or other charts that let me show growth over time. So where do you get the data for your market maps? The good news is, for some industries, there's a lot of data on the internet, and it's relatively easy to find. You can find total auto sales by make and model for last year on the internet for free, but you can't find for free total sales of wiper blades from each wiper blade supplier to the auto industry. So if it's a popular market segment or if it's a regulated market segment, then the data is probably on the internet and it's probably available for free. Tech data, smartphones, broadband, PCs, those are pretty easy to find on the internet. Airline data, because it's regulated, is available from the Department of Transportation. So that tends to be where I look. If your company subscribes to analyst reports, they are another good source of data. You can probably get wiper blade information from an analyst report. They would tend to have better data down at the competitor level for lots of industries. Company financials for publicly traded companies is another good source of data, but often companies will hide their relevant market segment data, so sometimes it's difficult to get data at that level. And last, your own organization might be a source of some of that data. Either your sales team or partners, reps that you're working with might provide you with a sense of the market, and if they don't have exact data, they might be able to provide you with some estimates. So I think that's where I would look. If you've got some other ideas, if you've made market maps and want to share some of those ideas with us, feel free. I think there's there are probably some other ways of getting data that I have not yet that I haven't mentioned. Now I'm going to just dive in and try to make a market map and show you how it's done using the Mekko Graphics software. So the map that I'm going to make is a map of the U.S. auto industry market. I made this a couple of weeks ago and published it in my blog post. I thought it was a good example of a market map. I tried to be relatively try to make it as full of information as I could. So I used so here I'm looking at my market segments are for the U.S. auto industry are cars, crossovers and SUVs, pickup trucks, and everything else, which turns out to be minivans and commercial vans. And within each segment, I've listed all of the models with over 150,000 units sold last year. So you can see that the biggest model in the car market is the Toyota Camry, and then we work our way down, and the biggest in the crossover SUVs is the Honda Civic CR-V, and you can see that we've got the pickups, much smaller segment, but much more consolidated. We've got very few players, and the other players with under 150,000 units make up a very small percentage of the market here, maybe 10%, whereas in the cars and crossover SUVs segments, they make up over 50%. So you get a sense of market consolidation in the pickup segment versus in the two larger segments. I also used colors to group things together, and I used my legend here. So all of my Toyota makes, all my Toyota models are in this dark green, and you can see them here in the chart. All of my Honda models are in a lighter green, and I did even include a geography segment in here by making all the Japanese manufacturers green, all the U.S. manufacturers brown, all the Korean manufacturers in this teal, and my one European manufacturer in this purple cranberry, and my other series in the light gray. So I tried to put a lot of data in and really have as much information as I could, I think, communicated in this market map. And now I'm going to show you how to make it using Mekko Graphics. First thing I want to show you is the data. The data from the web looks like this, from the website, goodcarbadcar.net. They've got data for cars, crossovers, etc., for each manufacturer, each make for this year and last. So basically, I'm just copying these two columns into my spreadsheet, and I'm copying them for all of the manufacturers with at least 100, all the models with at least 150,000 units sold, and I'm copying the total on the top, and I'm using a little formula here for other by basically taking my total and subtracting from it the enumerated models. And then I've got the same for crossovers, for pickups, and I just have an other segment for my last data. So I'm going to jump from my presentation into the Mekko Graphics software, show you how to make the chart. I'm going to insert a Marimekko chart onto my slide. I'm going to go to Excel where I've got the data, copy it, paste it into my chart, make my columns a little wider so I can read them. If you look at the chart here, you can see that I've got total in the chart, and I don't want to have total in the chart. I can get rid of that by right-clicking in my spreadsheet on the total and saying Show Series, getting rid of the series from the chart. Now I can close my sheet, and now I can make this chart look as good as I want it to be, as there was in slide 7. I'm going to adjust my margins because this is a pretty dense chart, so I want to give it as big a margin as I can. The bigger the margins, the more likely you're going to be able to show labels in the chart. So I want to do that. I want my other series to appear on the top. So to do that, I go into my bars and series menu. In series options, I select other as my other series. And the way Mekko Graphics works is if you've designated your series as other, it always appears on the top of every bar. So that's a nice little trick. If I had put all of the data into my spreadsheet and I wanted to add the smaller series to the other series, I would do it right here. I can click off here, say I wanted to switch and have everything with a value of 200,000 or less in my other series. I could just do that here and say update, and now I've got the other that I computed, but also some of the smaller series from the chart moved into other as well. So that's a nice feature of Mekko Graphics, that you can add or remove items from your other series relatively easily. So let me update that to get it back to the way it was. Oops, that wasn't the way it was. Let me update it again to get it back to the way it was. Perfect. Okay, so now I've got my my other series. The other things I wanted to do was I wanted to show all of these labels that were too small to show in the first pass. I can do that by right-clicking on my chart and say Smart Place all my unplaced labels. And then I also want to show my labels with my values. So I've got the actual units sold in the chart. I want to add an axis title. that down a little. Get rid of my margins so I can see the chart a little better. Now I can play with, if I'd like, I can play with the colors of the segments the way I did in the chart that I had made. And here I can go into bars and series, style, and I can select all of my Toyota, multi-select all of my Toyota segments. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not very good at multi-select. Multi-select all of my Toyota segments and make them a dark green. Auto select all of my Honda segments, which I think is just those two, and make them a lighter green. And I'm not going to go through the rest of this in the same process, but you get the idea of changing the colors that way. And I created a custom legend in Mekko Graphics just for the coloring. I did that by adding my legend, and then I just modified it so that I deleted all of the items I didn't need, and retyped the labels in the items I did need, so that I had a dark green label. I'll jump over here so you can see it. A dark green for Toyota. So this was all from editing those individual label items. So I mean, those are the basic tricks on the chart to really to make a Marimekko and really drive it home. The other things I wanted to show you, I think I forgot to show you, was if your data is not sorted, you always want to sort so the biggest series is on the bottom and the biggest bar is on the left. My data was naturally sorted, so I didn't need to do that. And then this label here, I also rotated, which is just on the right click, and edited it right here. So it said minivans, I think minivans and trucks, something like that. I can't remember what the actual category was. And you notice when you edit a label, you get these little red corners to tell you that the label was manually edited. So that should give you a sense of how to make a Marimekko chart and how to make it look nice. I tried to write the tips down just so you have a sense of what works well in a market map. One thing in a market map, and pretty well all the Marimekko charts, is that you want to keep your the number of series that show up in your chart to be somewhere around 10 or fewer, because more than 10 makes it difficult to read on a PowerPoint slide. And you can use the other series to group your smaller data. You should always sort your bars, as I just did, so the biggest bar is on the left, and sort your series so that the biggest series is on the bottom. Color is a great way to draw your audience attention to a chart, to a specific part of a chart. A lot of our customers will highlight their company in a key color, or as I did in this chart, you might want to group similar companies together using similar colors or the same color. I had a call yesterday from a grocery wholesaler who wanted all of their meat suppliers in one color and their produce suppliers in a different color. So again, you can use colors that way as well. Our color palettes, some of our color palettes have multiple shades of the same color, which is what I did in what I used in this chart. So I think this is the Parade color palette from the which you can download from the internet, and it's got 4 shades of green and 4 shades of brown, and I think 4 shades of this teal. So again, you can smartly use the colors and also smartly use the shades. The one thing I didn't do in any of these charts, which sometimes is useful, is adding a data row to the bottom of the chart. You could have segment growth in that data row. You could have the relative margins of the segments in the data row as well, or you could put any other data in the data row. And if you had a data row, it would appear right here in the bottom under the chart, aligned with the bars of the chart. So that was my my quick tour of market maps. I hope you found it useful. If you have questions, feel free to use the chat feature in Mekko Graphics, in GoToMeetings, I'm sorry, to ask the questions. And also, if you've got ideas for other how-to webinars, feel free to put them in the chat section as well. We tend to alternate monthly webinars in that we would do sort of a basic training webinar 1 month, and then a more specialized focus, maybe a little more business-oriented webinar in the other month. So we're always looking for ideas from our customers about what should go in those how-to webinars. If you want to see other examples of Marimekko charts and of market maps, I'd recommend taking a look at the resources section of our website. Let me see if I can quickly jump there. Under resources, we have a whole section of charts by type, which is a great resource for ideas for charts, and we have all of these Marimekko charts. Many of them are market maps or variants on market maps, and these are all available for you to download as well. And we also, on our website, have a blog which we update weekly, and the blog tends to have different charts of different chart types in them, and is also a good source. You can learn what's in the blog by checking the blog out on the website, or by following Mekko Graphics and LinkedIn. We tend to post the blogs to LinkedIn as well, or by following me in LinkedIn. I also post the blogs directly in my own LinkedIn. So lots of good resources, and also we're always available via email. You can email any questions either to support@mekkographics.com or directly to me at david@mekkographics.com. So I will I will stop talking. Thank you for attending the webinar. I will stick around for a few minutes. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask them on the chat feature, or if something comes to you later, feel free to send me an email and ask me the question. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, and thank you all for being Mekko Graphics customers.